Push your buttons on. Good evening. Welcome to the January 4th Wyndham Raymond Board of Directors meeting. We are in the Town Council chambers. It is now 6:34. If I could have a roll call, Mr. Superintendent.
Sure can. Kate Bricks.
Here.
Eric Colby.
Here.
Jandy Cummins.
Here.
Diana Freuslin.
Here.
Marge Cavoni.
Here.
Pete Hensler.
Here.
Don Dillon.
Here.
Anna Kinney.
Here.
Scott McLean. Here.
Okay, if you could join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, there are no adjustments to the agenda this evening. I will open it up to public input. Seeing no public input, I will close public input. And I will, if I could hear a motion, please, to go into executive session for an expulsion hearing.
I move to approve going into executive session to consider the possible expulsion of a student pursuant to 1 MRSA subsection 4056B.
Second.
A motion and a second. All those in favor? It is unanimous. We are in executive.
Removal of the student is necessary for the peace and usefulness of the school, but based on these facts, the board hereby expels the student effective immediately for an indefinite period of time, and that the superintendent notify the student and his or her parents of this action in writing with a copy of these written findings of facts and conclusions. If the student is expelled for an indefinite period of time, a reentry plan will be prepared by the superintendent in consultation with the family and his or her family. Did I say that right? Student and his or her family. The student's parents, student have the right to request readmission pursuant to law.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor? It is unanimous. The student is expelled. Could we have a 5-minute break, please? Okay, we are back from break. Next on our agenda, we have our high school assistant principal, Mr. Rossetti, is here to update the board on our school start time committee. Mr. Rossetti, thank you.
Great, thanks for having me tonight. I'm excited to be here and talk a little bit about this. It was kind of nice that we planned a 1-hour delay today, so we kind of experiment with a delayed start with students.
It was good.
My anecdotal evidence was that kids showed up, arrived, prepared, ready to learn today, and they were excited about the delay. So thank you, Mr. Principal. We've put together a school start time committee, and we've met twice. Dawn is on the committee with us, so we do have a school board representation. I'll go through the rest of the committee, but just a connection for this is it really plays into our strategic plan. And when we look at the long-term goal number 2, the environment for learning, it really, when we talk about the environment for learning, it helps by letting kids sleep in and be prepared for school. It's kind of a natural connection. So we, as a committee, have kind of felt this is a pretty good topic to bring up. And if you look around, the area, a lot of schools are really looking at this and exploring this. My personal background, last year at South Portland, I was involved in a similar committee that went through the same process and came back to the board they were in the process of giving the board a recommendation. I think just recently they put forth their recommendation to the board to push their school start time. So a lot of data, a lot of research out there for us to explore and look at. So for us, the strategic plan, I'm fortunate that this district has that vision and is really looking at that, what's best for kids. That's great. So our committee member is kind of a diverse group. We have Deb Hutchison, who's the assistant principal at RES, Raymond Elementary School, Don, who's a school board representation, Mark Juranzik at Wyndham Middle School, Mike Kelly, the transportation director, Barney Kutra, I'm going to mispronounce his name, who's the transportation coordinator as well with Mike, Rich Drummond, the athletic director, myself, and Sandy stopped in last meeting, so I'll put you down as a member. So we've met, and we've kind of, added a little bit of pieces. Some future members we want to get in the room would be Bill Hansen to kind of talk about, as a district, his involvement, what impact it might have there too. So as a committee, we looked at, we hope to answer why consider a change at all. What's the benefit of this? So what are the challenges? What are the considerations around making any change in our district? What does community think about this change, and what kind of an impact will it have on them? Then we hope to kind of share with Sandy and maybe the board as well, kind of our thoughts, and maybe, depending on where we want to go, a recommendation, just things to look at. So for us as a group, one of the first things we did was look at just research and data. Like I said, I was fortunate enough last year to spend a year working through this process, so I have a kind of a background in some of the information, but I didn't know where everybody else was at. So we spent a lot of time looking at resources. Shared some of that was videos and data from other schools and other communities. Research studies from different universities. There's a good website. It's called startschoollater.net, which provides a lot of resources. And some communities in Southern Maine have their own branch of that organization, and so there's a lot of advocates looking into that. So the data that we kind of reviewed, it's pretty strong that adolescent teens need more sleep. They should have about 8.5 to 9.5 hours of sleep per night. We all know that depending on Megan, maybe who knows if she gets that much sleep a night. I don't know. With some of the class levels that students are in, sleep varies. But that's kind of the ballpark number. Teens in general are biologically programmed to older folks like myself and some of the board members, perhaps some of us it's 7 o'clock. It's funny, somebody said that earlier today as well. But it generally is about 9 o'clock is when we start to kind of get sleepy in general. So and then we stop that process as adults at 7:30 in the morning. Adolescents stop that at roughly 9 o'clock in the morning. So we talk about a 10:30 at night bedtime, roughly when they start to get sleepy, and 9 o'clock wake up time. We start school at 7:25 at the high school. So that's a lot of kids. It's a struggle. So for the students to kind of get their full amount of sleep, they need to be in bed by 9 o'clock to get up at 6 a.m. to get to school on time. So that's kind of what we're working around as a number. The information talks about students that don't get enough, or people that don't get enough sleep, can result in things like anxiety, depression, increased risks of suicide, poor attention and poor problem solving, poor academic performance, increased grade failure, poor impulse control, and increased risk taking, drug use, sexual activities, more violence and bullying. So a laundry list of different things. Poor food choices, increased insulin, and actually some other statistics are increased automobile accidents and increased sports injuries for students that don't get proper sleep. So we look at a holistic student, the student athlete in general is impacted by not getting enough sleep too. So a lot of medical and professional organizations are recommending that high schools start at 8:30 or later. That's kind of their ballpark figure. As I mentioned before, there's been a lot of regional shifts recently. Some school districts, Portland high school and middle school start at 8 o'clock in the morning. Elementary start at 8:30. Roughly, it's a little fluctuation there, but it's generally the ballpark. Westbrook schools start at 8 o'clock for high school, middle school, and get out at 2:30. Orem schools are 7:50 to 2. SAD 51, which is Cumberland. Greeley is 8 to 2:30. Falmouth schools 8 to 2:20, and Biddeford schools, which is kind of unique, and they have, in some districts, are flipping around elementary and high school, middle schools. So I have a 6-year-old daughter who goes to kindergarten at Raymond. She could be in school earlier, probably. Would be helpful for my wife, probably. But when we look at, for her, getting up in the morning is a little bit easier sometimes for her because younger kids are more on the same patterns as us, as with their sleep rhythms. But Biddeford School District has flipped their schedule around, so their high school goes from 8:30 to 3, middle school from 8:40 to 3:10, and their elementary school start at 7:45 and go to 2:25. So they've reversed their schedule around. I think Old Orchard Beach is the other school down there that's done that as well. Have flipped the schedules. I've reached out to a few of those schools to kind of get some feedback as to how that process has gone. I'm still waiting to get data because it's so new. They're still pulling their data together to get that information. So I'm going to hopefully have some more information down the road to share about what they've seen as an impact. So we've kind of, as a committee, started to look at, pockets within our district and what the impact might be. So we started looking at the elementary school first, and Deb talked about Raymond Elementary and how that, if we were to look at shifting our time, and I asked Sandy to kind of, if we worked around a scenario, what would that look like, for us to move our start time. So we've kind of, as a committee, worked at a 8 o'clock high school start time just to maybe move things about a half an hour. What would that ripple effect look like through the district? So this is by no means a proposal or anything like that. This is just a, kind of a process we're working through. So we've looked at the elementary aspect, and Deb's general feeling was that a 30-minute shift for them would have very little impact in what they do.
Is that looking at shift, just so I'm understanding, shifting their start time back half an hour?
A half an hour as well, yeah. So it would put them, I believe,
8 o'clock. 10 to 8, for the elementary school.
for the RES,
Wouldn't that be 8 o'clock?
for their start time, be 9 o'clock.
Yeah.
Would it be?
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought
Yeah.
you were talking about starting them earlier.
No, we're not
no,
talking about starting.
moving
We're just talking
everybody
about
else.
shifting. If we went across the district and said,
I see.
everybody's starting, we're half an hour late. It's kind of what we're talking about now.
All right.
I'll get to the flip part in a second.
We're
Yeah.
excited for
I
that
know.
part.
Yeah.
That's what I like.
So we talked about just kind of a shift and what kind of an impact that would have. She felt it would have, very little impact. She said that the before and school aftercare, the SAC program that they have, it starts at 6 a.m. and it ends at 6 p.m. So that these parents could still drop kids off early, pick them up late. That still wouldn't have much of a difference there. She felt that, a thing to consider would be that, dropping an elementary kid off, like this time of year, it might be a little bit dark. That could be an issue to consider. But the main issue for her, she felt, was that the sharing of specialists across the district. How would that work? So, but then she also shared with her parent advisory committee this process and what we're working through to kind of get some feedback from them. And they thought that overall it would have a pretty, would have a little impact on what they do. But they felt that a flip of the high school and middle school schedule with the elementary schedule would be a larger concern for that group of parents. So that was kind of the general feedback as an elementary. So athletics, Mr. Drummond talked about, went through basically team by team. And if you go to the strategic plan website, there's a link, and I can email any of the stuff to you folks too, of his kind of like team by team impact. But to kind of sum up his thoughts, most of the impacts would be around daylight issues. So, we lose that daylight, we gain that daylight, and practices in October could be more difficult if we have a later practice times, so that could play in part. We may have to look at maybe some early dismissals to some games that we generally haven't had to do in the past. So he'd be concerned about missing academic time if we had to dismiss kids early to go to an event. There's some concern around officials and maybe a lack of officials. So he may have to juggle his schedule a little bit, but as the athletic directors, they are looking at this as a group of athletic directors in the SMAA as well. They have a committee that's researching this, looking at the schedule for them and how that impacts them as they work together and collaborate. So it's kind of on everybody's plate. We also have that unique spot where we're Wyndham, but we're also kind of in the north when we play a lot of athletic events. So we just played Bangor before Christmas in basketball. So, looking at where we fall for classification could have an impact on the dismissal times and all that piece as well. So there's a lot of balls in the air right now about what could happen with athletics. There could be some real impact depending on, it's almost a team by team basis. With Alpine Ski going to Shawnee Peak, Hockey, going to USM, different places that we practice off campus. So that could be a challenge for Mr. Drummond. In transportation, we've just started to kind of look at that, but Mike in general has felt pretty good about, like, if we were just to move start time a little bit, there really wouldn't be a major issue for him. The plan's already in place. The drop-off time, he also wanted us to express, the drop-off times of students is different than the actual start of school times. Like the high school students are dropped off at 7:05. School starts at 7:25. The first student in our district gets picked up at 5:50 in the morning up in Raymond. So that's quite early, that's a long bus ride in. So he's concerned about special ed and out-of-district placements in his ballpark and what that might look like. So that's kind of where we're at right now. The next upcoming meetings, we're going to look at high school and middle school impacts. We're going to go a little bit more in depth on transportation, just to kind of see, is there any impact there that we've missed. We're going to conduct a survey of the students 6 through 12, just to kind of get some information from them about what their thoughts are, what are some of their struggles that they've seen. We're going to share some information with staff and do a survey of the staff as well. And then hopefully at some point we'll get into the community aspect as well, which is kind of trying to get a gauge of where we are, collect some data from our stakeholders, and then hopefully by the end of this process, end of the school year, we may have a better grip as to what we might want to share more with you. So I guess that's kind of it. Happy to answer or try to answer any questions for you.
You said that there's other communities that are already starting to go through the same process as well. Can you tell me again, what are
off the top, this is what I have on my list. Gorham, SAD 51, which is Cumberland Greeley, Falmouth schools, Biddeford schools, Portland and Westbrook. South Portland is suggesting they make a change. Trying to think some other schools. Old Orchard Beach is one. Thornton Academy. I'm sure I'm missing a couple others off the top of my head.
have they all just moved to like the in half-hour increments?
A little bit.
Yeah.
Generally, half hour is kind of the rough ballpark. It's moved everybody towards that 8 o'clock start time, and it just depends on where they were before they made the change. Some of them were at 7:30, 7:35, 7:20. So yeah.
Okay.
To piggyback on that, the thing that struck me is when you were talking about sleep rhythms, you said 9 o'clock is typically, in general, the time that middle school, high schoolers in particular, that's when they're awake. And so I wonder, I'll be interested in the data from Old Orchard Beach, because for me right now, and I know this is all new, a half an hour change doesn't seem like that much to me if we really want to impact sleep. And if Old Orchard Beach flips it so that those kiddos can sleep, I don't know, what does that mean when you say flip? They start at 9? The high school
They start at 8:30, 8:35.
I mean, a half an hour.
So it's about an hour change from what they were originally.
Right,
a couple
right.
years ago.
I mean, I understand. I mean, if I'm looking at you and I say you get an extra half an hour, you're like, ooh, yes. But but when I think of what we're really trying to accomplish, I mean, I just want it to really have a good impact. And right now, I have to be convinced that a half an hour is enough.
Yeah, I was sitting over here thinking the same thing, and I'm kind of curious about the science behind it. Like, if you're talking about, say, an hour and a half difference, where you get 9 o'clock as the optimum awake time, I'm wondering if it's a straight line of a benefit, like for every half hour you're getting up this much, or when you start going 8 o'clock is down here, but as you get closer to 9, it gets steeper with the benefit of it all.
Right.
And then the other thing that I wonder about is, are we really increasing the amount of sleep, or is it just shifting everything? Like, because if school's starting a half hour later, your sports practices are going a half an hour later, you still have the same amount of homework, so you're gonna be finishing that a half an hour later. You still probably need the same amount of downtime, so are you going to be staying up later?
Yeah, those are concerns that we've talked about. I mean, those are real concerns. it's almost a kid by kid situation. So sometimes it's hard to answer that question. I think for us, we have a lot of kids that they do a lot of stuff in our community, whether it's the theater or whether it's a sport or whatever. So for them, staying up a little bit later, when they're not, if they had to go to sleep early, they're not ready to sleep until that 10:30 to 11 o'clock window. So I don't know. There's no answer for that question. It's hard to gauge it. But I understand your concern.
Yeah, no, those would
Yeah.
be some of the things that
Yeah.
I'd be looking for. Because, like
Sure.
Kate, I would have to be convinced that a half an hour
Is meaningful.
Mm-hmm.
meaningful, especially
Yeah.
if we're talking about maybe pulling kids out of class to go to sports.
Mhm.
I mean, the benefit that you're gaining on one end, how much are you losing on the other end?
I would also, because I'm really data driven, those that have currently shifted even a half an hour, I don't know how they could do this or if they're even doing it, but what benefits do they see? I mean, has student achievement, or is it simply that from the student perspective, they like it?
Exactly. Yeah.
You know what
No, I hear
mean?
you. Yeah, and that's what I'm hoping to get
I
from
mean,
them
and
is
there's
some
probably, we
more
need to look
hard
at that
data.
right.
Yeah.
I gotta say, we're like a case study at our house because I have a daughter at Wyndham High School who starts at 7:30, and I have a daughter at Greeley High School that starts at 8 o'clock for the first time this year. So you come watch. It's at our house in the morning. There's one that's up at 5:15 because she goes to school in Wyndham and has to get, and even just the next one doesn't have to get up for like half an hour, and it seems like such a little thing, but it's that much more time she has to wake up and be prepared. So it's not even necessarily in our house, and by no means should anybody call us the norm.
I'll come visit.
It's fun. But I mean, it's not even that they're getting more sleep. It's that they have that much more time to sort of adjust to being awake. So it's not, I have to get up at 5:15 and leave the house at 6 o'clock. We have that time to be awake and to eat breakfast. My goodness, she eats breakfast. And that seems like such a silly thing, but she does. She eats breakfast now. And she's an athlete, and she does, she plays hockey, and she has time to fuel her body, and she has time to actually kind of become a human in the morning. And it really is interesting. I'm very excited to see the recommendations and what you guys get for data, because like I said, we're watching it in our house, and it's cool. It's neat to see. I'm very excited to hear.
This is an odd question, but
I'm ready.
you ready?
Yep.
Because this is weird, but all right. If they're not awake, really, for the first class, I'm going to say the first class of the day. Have you noticed if you went to these, you pick the kids, they got a whole quarter, a whole trimester, whatever it is that they're on the same thing, are they getting a worse grade in their first class than they are in the rest of their classes? Like say they have English, that's their first class.
Yeah, I don't have the evidence there to share with you, but I mean, I think anecdotally, teaching for 20 years, I taught first period class a lot, and those kids, I could have the same lesson first block and then have it 2 blocks later, and it was like night and day. And you see the kids first thing in the morning, and they're kind of zombie-like, come wandering in with their coffee or their breakfast, whatever it may be, sit down, and then, about that 8:30, just as we're getting ready to change classes, they're starting to kind of come to life a little bit.
And you felt like you were really losing an audience.
Yeah, and I'm like, man, this is a real struggle for me. I must really stink, but they're just tired. So, but it's an interesting thing, and I think that is a half an hour enough? I don't know. I think it's worth exploring. I think it's worth a start for us if it gives kids that extra half an hour to get them in. I mean, like I said this morning, 8 o'clock. Kids are walking in the building kind of like, hey, what's going on? A lot more talking going on at 8 o'clock than there usually is at that point in time in the cafeteria. Usually it's people getting breakfast, stuff, and muffin in, and off they go. But kids were chatting, a little more jovial, so it's nice.
I have to say, when the committee for the strategic plan was coming up with the goals, I think this is the second goal.
Yes.
The second goal.
I think so. First goal, long-term goal number 2 is
yeah.
environmental plan.
Can you read? Do you have that?
Yep.
Could you read the goal?
By 2021, all RSU 14 students will continue to learn in a school environment that meets the developmental needs of young people and supports balance and quality of life for all members of the learning community.
So I was trying to recall that it's more quality of life than it is maybe academic achievement. And so with that in mind, you know, I think this is important work, and I'll be really interested to see what you come up with.
Yeah, I'm excited. Sorry, Megan.
So like based on my experience in like talking about the first period class, it like depends on what your first period class, but like for me on Monday mornings,
So is the assumption that kids are going to function better if they get up the same time, but they really don't have to get moving for another half hour? Because if they just sleep late, if they sleep another half hour, you've got the same thing going on or not?
Oh, I'm gonna
Look at, I think your cohort up there would like to come to the table.
This guy behind me.
Most kids I know would just sleep that extra half hour.
I'll just go with like Ann, I'll go with the anecdotal piece because my own kids have made the swap this year, and I think the biggest difference I've noticed initially with my middle schooler, my freshman, is no longer having to wake them up in the morning, that they're waking up on their own to actually get ready for their school day, where in the past we were having to say, now it's time to get up so you can get ready so that you can get out the door and being ready to go. And so just being able to finish the sleep cycle has made a huge difference. And even with my high school senior, bedtimes haven't changed, but the ability then to sleep in to pick up that extra half hour in order to be able to then get into school has been much, much better. So definitely as a parent, and just seeing my kids in the morning actually getting up on their own instead of somebody prodding and pulling them out of bed has made a difference for us.
How much time change? Was it just
They did a half an hour.
Half an hour?
They did a half an hour. The kids started at 8 and they finished up at 2:30. And you know, one thing I'll also speak to is the athletic piece. We were having to pull kids even prior for long trips when we were considered to be a Southern Division school, when we were playing the Marshwoods and making that long trip. Really the only time that we've looked through is that we would have to pull kids for a trip is when we're making the Bangor trips. But we would have to do that regardless of whether or not that's a 1:56 or 2:26 end time for those particular events.
Cool. Thanks.
Phil, is there any intention at some point to bring like an outside parent in to join the committee? Or how are you going to be getting the input from the parents?
I think that's definitely on the agenda of people to include, with where we're kind of getting our feet underneath us and kind of looking at the RSU, what is the impact within us, and then obviously parents have to be involved because this really has an impact, or could have an impact on them, just to get some of that feedback from them as well. Sure. Yep.
And just a small recommendation.
Sure.
If you do that, make sure you get a parent that is impacted by the older children, and then one But anyway, just
Mhm.
so, you know, I think we'll get
Thank you.
different perspectives from,
Absolutely. I mean, it would be
From the two
helpful
different
to have more than just one
groups.
parent, you know, have
Yeah.
a couple parents that could kind of,
I think you
represent
actually, at
different
some point, you're
pockets.
gonna need a forum.
oh, for sure.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
for sure. Yeah.
There's a parent right there that's on there.
Right.
It's the same with the homework. There's a lot of people that are on that are parents.
Mhm.
Christina's a parent. So, I mean,
Yeah.
you get a lot of that
Yeah.
naturally anyway.
Absolutely.
it's pretty cool though.
Yeah.
I can't believe we're looking at homework and late starts in the same year.
It's pretty exciting stuff. I mean, this is the right move
I think it's great.
for us and our kids. I think it's great.
Yeah,
Great.
excellent.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you for coming.
Could you just serve Red Bull at 7:30?
Actually, I don't know what to do with myself now that I can't talk.
Okay, next on our agenda is the high school principal, Mr. Howell, is here. And he has a proposal for an advanced placement environmental science class.
I have multiple.
Is he your wingman now for this?
I told him nobody told me to leave.
Good evening.
Hi. Thank you for having me tonight. For those of you who might be new to the board, or those of you who don't remember us doing this every year, we are in the midst of prepping Wyndham High School for the 2017-2018 school year. In a very short time, we'll be visiting with the middle schools and starting the whole process of course signups and getting students ready to enroll for next year. As part of that process, each year we come forward with any new courses that we might be adding to our planning guide, and those courses then come to you as the school committee for approval, and then based upon your approval, we're then able to offer those courses then to one of our students. There was a time where we went and printed our planning guide and gave out copies to every single student at Wyndham High School about 2 or 3 years ago for budget savings. We actually have gone to a digital copy, and if you're at all interested in looking at the Wyndham High School Planning Guide, which lists all of the courses that we have on the books for Wyndham High School, you can go onto the Wyndham High School website under the For Parents, and you can actually look at the planning guide and see everything that we could possibly offer. The course that we're bringing forward to you tonight is actually taking and adding an AP Environmental course. For those of you who may or may not be familiar with the Advanced Placement Program, it's sponsored by the College Board. It is a prescribed curriculum. Students who participate in the curriculum or in the course, at the completion of that course, and may have the opportunity to take an exam. And then based upon that exam and schools that they might be looking at, could possibly earn college credit for the courses that they take. The courses are considered to be at a college level or with a college level of rigor. And again, depending upon the school and depending upon the scores, some schools, and the way the scoring works is on a 1 through 5. Some schools will take a 3, 4, or 5. Other schools won't actually take the AP score, but instead what they'll do, instead of taking a 100 level course, they may allow you to advance onto a 200 level course without having to do that basic prerequisite. It's a great opportunity for our students, the whole advanced placement program process. And through your support as a board, I just pulled up some rough statistics, but back in 2008, we had roughly about 59 students participating in AP, taking about a total of 86 exams. Last year, we were running about 160 students participating in the AP program, and we were close to 300 exams that were given. So we've grown 220 plus exams, and all sorts of opportunities for students to be able to learn at a higher level. The course that we're proposing, AP Environmental, is actually going to take the place of an existing course that we have on the books now, which is our Honors Earth Science program. And some of you might be familiar with that course because I know we've had some board members who've come in and have been served as a panel from some of our students for their final projects. Also, I think many of you are familiar with this particular book, which was produced by our Honors Earth Science kids over a course of several years for the Portland Water District. One thing we found with the semester course is that it's becoming more and more difficult to schedule students in, and we're getting feedback from our students that they would be more attracted to a course if there was that possibility for some AP potential or for some AP credit based on taking that course, or as being one of their science electives. So what I've provided for you tonight is from the College Board website. It's an overview of the course, and really it's an introductory college environmental science course. So the major units within it are Earth Systems and Resources, the living world, how populations exist within nature, land and water use, energy resources and consumption, pollution, and global change. The current Honors Earth Science class has been using our entire campus as a giant lab to do everything from water quality to air quality to doing some different sampling rates for aquatic organisms. Those types of activities actually transfer very, very well over to an AP environmental class. In fact, they're closely tied with one another. The other piece that we're trying to also move forward with this is that we have something that not any other school has in the state of Maine, which is we have our own sewage treatment plant. In fact, I think we're one of the few districts east of the Mississippi that even has their own plant. It's a fantastic opportunity for students to learn how water systems and watersheds work in a lab. And we've also had quite a bit of support from Mac Richardson, who currently runs that plant for the district. I'm looking at some teaching opportunities for that as well. So looking to include that within the curriculum. So the actual curriculum itself is dictated by the College Board, and the reason for that is because students who participate in the course, taking the standardized exam in May, all are expected to have the exposure to the same amount of material in order to be successful for that exam. So that is the one course at this moment that we are proposing for change going into the 2018 school year.
There would be no change in staff?
There would not be a change in staff because we would no longer be offering the Honors Earth Science course. Instead, we would be offering AP Environmental. The only cost associated with it is going to be whatever we have to purchase for textbooks for the course, and the other piece is that we're required by the College Board to send off the individual for training. Usually there's AP institutes that are offered all across New England. And it's pretty typical that we're sending our AP teachers to those events for either updates in the curriculum or just a kind of refresher on what's happening within a particular course from the College Board. I think it's a great opportunity for our students. I also think for some of our students who may not want to go into an AP Chemistry or an AP Bio, it might be something a little bit more hands-on for them and more environmental impact related that might actually attract some students who currently aren't being served in our other AP programs. But again, fantastic opportunity for our kids.
Great. Very good. Anybody got any questions? Comments? See, we love it.
Yeah.
Good job. Good
It's a good thing for our kids.
All right, well, I'll move it.
Alrighty then.
Move.
Okay, moving forward, but now we have to, sorry, not stepping on your tongue, Pete. But, so we could have a motion to approve.
I move to approve the Advanced Placement Environmental Science class at Wyndham High School.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. I don't think there's any more questions or comments, so all those in favor? It is unanimous. We now have the class. Thank you, Mr. Howell. Fabulous. All right, that's great. Next on our agenda is we have to approve our district emergency preparedness plan. And I think that was presented in November, and the training, I think, was at the last meeting. Came. And I think, could you give just a tiny synopsis, just for whoever's watching?
Every year, boards have to approve the motion, the safety plan, and kind of do a skeleton view of the plan. We don't get into the real specifics of the plan, but I think we have a good sense that we have drills, and Bill is definitely on top of this.
Okay,
Just
great,
annual motion or-
because it's really not out there for public. We
Right.
want everybody knowing our plan,
Right.
in case we need to use it. Okay, so can I have a motion, please?
I move to approve the district's emergency preparedness plan.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor? It is unanimous. All right, before we start our approval of the minutes, if you could make a note, Sandy, that thank you to, and I don't know if it was
Eric.
It was Eric this time. It's usually Pete that
So
catches them.
sharp.
That on these minutes, it has Jennifer Fleck present, so that needs to be
The 21st.
on both of them.
Yes.
Yeah, on both sets. So if we could get that removed.
Oh, we're missing one.
I know too many members, huh? Okay, so if we could have a motion, please.
I move to approve the minutes of the December 7th, 2016 meeting.
Second.
Okay, any comments other than the fact that we're removing Jennifer Fleck off the attendee list? Seeing none. All those in favor? It is unanimous. Thank you.
I move to approve the minutes of the December 21st, 2016 meeting.
Second.
Okay, again, all of those who will already are in favor of this, of course, again, with the exception of removing Jennifer Fleck off the member list. All those in favor? It is unanimous. Thank you. Committee reports, rather than go through all of them, because I don't think there have been very many committee meetings. Dawn,
There's only been one meeting at the beginning of the year for adult education, and an exciting awards night tomorrow at the Lake Region
the chambers.
Chamber Commerce. I'm going to say that wrong. Recognizing Wyndham education, adult education. So
Yeah.
I'll be
Nice.
attending that. I
Good, that was
sent you an
business.
email.
I saw it. Yeah, business of the year, I think it was. or something.
Business of the year.
Yeah, that's pretty
So-
cool.
So
Nice recognition.
that's fantastic.
I thought that was great. I don't think,
And anyone is welcome to join me. It's at Camp Sunshine, isn't it?
Yeah.
At 4:30. Okay. Great.
alrighty, Kate,
I have nothing.
I don't know if any other, the technical schools have not had their meetings not till the 19th at Westbrook, if you're interested, Anna.
We have the district technology committee did meet, and I was absent. I'll have the minutes to send out to you tomorrow. If not to the
How about our boat?
I have no new update other
How
than
about that I vote? How about that vote?
I have no update other than what we talked about last time on that.
Okay, great.
Sandy, regarding technology, I know we're having an audit across the district.
I can get an update on that. I know
Yeah.
Don's made contact with them. I'm not sure they've started.
Okay.
It'll take a little while, maybe several months.
What was the last update on the boat?
The last update was they were down at the primary school and they hadn't launched it for the November launching, and they were still looking for people to finish it up.
I actually talked to a couple of teachers and Mr. Crockett and Raymond. We thought that it had launched, but they're definitely interested in assisting, and I may or may not know a lobsterman that can.
They may not.
I know.
How many lobsters are involved? But
So Bob Aslan is the one that is kind of overseeing that. It's his baby, so to speak. So if I can send him an email and just see if not, he can reach out to Mr. Crockett.
yeah, absolutely.
So we
We may or may not know a lot.
And I don't think the finance
sounds
committee
sketchy.
hasn't had one.
Nope.
Nope.
Nope. I
And
know him,
policy
whether or
has
not he'll
not
haul
met.
a little tiny boat out behind his.
No policy, no. Okay. Megan. What's going on at the high school?
Well, at high school, after we're having midterms coming up,
Yeah.
the week after next.
Yay.
And tomorrow morning, student council is meeting with Mr. Howell to talk about our clothing drive that we're starting after midterms until February break. And with the clothes that we get donated, we're going to put some of them towards the clothing closet that we have at the high school, like fill in what sizes that we need for things, and then whatever we don't need, we're giving to the Preble Street Resource Center.
Do you want to, I don't know if all of the board members know about that Feeding Friends
Oh,
that you also have?
I don't know that much about that, actually.
No.
It wasn't student council that started it. I don't remember who did it, but I know that they always have food in the conference room.
Marlene Bicknell in the athletic department started that, and that is the high school has its own clothes closet, food pantry there, and they have bags there. So where they get their food from most of the time is students who can afford to and have the will to will bring in food, cans, jars, whatever, and they keep them in cabinets there, and students who have the need for that are able to come down and see Marlene, and she'll give them a bag, and they can just fill it and take it home if the need is there, so that's another great thing that's going on at the high school. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to put you on the spot. I thought you were familiar with it.
I've heard about when they've done like the specific like food drives for it, when
Yeah.
they like really do the big push. Usually it's towards the end of the year, or not end of the year, but they do it like towards like around this similar time. But they haven't started it up, and so I don't know much about food drive time.
Okay, our board roundtable. Sandy, we're going to start with you. Tell us what is going on.
Okay, so
What is going on?
What is happening?
What is going on? we should.
FY18 budget. Last month, pretty much, the building administrators, department heads worked with their building staff to develop a budget. Today was a deadline to get that to us, so now we're trying to get a total amount of the budget. This month, we meet with each department head, building administrator, departments, directors, and actually go through their budget, try to understand what they're asking for, any new increases and stuff like that. And just as a board, we typically will meet with you early March to give you a first glance of what the proposed budget entails, so that when I present it on March 8th, there's no big surprises. So I think one year we did make a reduction in some area. It might have been music or something, or it might have been something else. But the board felt like, there's a great opportunity early on to have some input before it actually was presented to the public. So that will be happening in early March. And as far as I know, things are going well with the budget. I think the building administrators have really worked hard to try to put a reasonable budget together. In addition to that, we should probably think about a finance meeting sometime in January. It's that time of year when we'll have to get those meetings scheduled every month. In addition, part of the strategic plan is to come up with some guiding principles. And this is a packet. I'm not going to walk you through this tonight, but if you think of the standards that we have for students, we also have guiding principles. And those are sort of like life habits that you want people to have to be an effective communicator, to be a good problem solver. And so what you have in front of you is sort of the first condensed packet of information that this committee the strategic plan has come up with. And you can just kind of preview this in the coming weeks if you'd like. But it has, like, you know, the purpose of guiding principles, the mission of this work. This will be going out to staff after the committee looks at this, and when they want to get feedback from staff, because this committee's done all this work. They just really want to make sure that people take some ownership for this and that it is part of the reporting system to parents, because it's essential. It's great to get all A's, but you might not be a great communicator or a good problem solver in life, and so this group really wants to make sure that we stay true to this work. So I just hand this out for you. It's a draft form. Christine's been very instrumental in pulling this together. It's for every grade level, guiding principles at every grade level, K through 12. And ultimately, you will approve this once we get feedback from staff. Just kind of giving you a heads up on that work.
Who is, and you might have said it and I missed it, but who is the group putting this together?
It's a guiding principles group. It's a committee that's formed under the strategic plan, and they, just like the homework group, they meet monthly. I can get the members to you.
No, that's okay. I was just wondering, you know, what it was made up, the makeup of the group. That's all.
So,
are we still affiliated with the SEA at all?
yeah, we are. Sebago Ed Alliance, the 4 districts. There's such changes with superintendents that, like this year alone, 2 of the districts have new superintendents. So we've met. There's interest to stay together. I think where we're struggling is, what do we all want to work on as 4 districts? We're so busy working on the proficiency work that there seems to be very not much time to take on new initiatives. But it's funny you mention that, Marge, because as you know, the governor just came out with the idea of possibly districts working more closely together, not consolidation, but to shared services. And so one thing that we thought we would bring up at the SEA, is there any interest to possibly work together and apply for some of those monies to do some type of shared services? I even proposed that maybe we'd want to talk to USM, and I'm not sure what that would mean, other than maybe it could be more coursework for our high school students to get college credit. So there's some interest just to kind of brainstorm some ideas together as 4 districts and look at possibly getting some funds. But that is so preliminary.
Oh, I know.
Put that disclaimer out.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, Jenny, anything for board roundtable?
Thought you were going that way.
I know. So did I.
I know. Okay, I'll save you for last. Megan, do anything? How's school going?
It's good.
When's the next breakfast?
It's on the 19th, I believe. I can look. Yeah.
Breakfast.
Lunch. But brunch.
Depending on what time you eat.
Lunch? Is it so early?
Yeah, it's
Breakfast
like
might be more
10:30.
doable for some people. but-
Yeah.
On a plus, if we push this time back, lunch will move back.
Good job.
Mhm.
All right.
Nothing at this time.
Diane?
Can't think of anything.
Okay. Listen, here's what I did. I'm going to pass this out really quick. This is an updated committee list. As of right now, there's a few changes on it. And as you can see, Dawn Dillon was added to the technology along with Eric. She was interested in that. Anna is going to be the AmeriCorps liaison. She's already had some conversations with Richmond Reserve, so that is great. And I have taken that open spot on the finance committee till somebody steps forward and decides they have an interest in it, and then I will let them have it. But this fills us up for the moment anyway. So that is the latest.
When does that meet?
Which
The finance group.
we usually have meetings before pre-meetings.
So,
Typically when they're
like 5 o'clock.
yeah, 5:30. Yeah. Was that good for you?
Good try, good try. But anyway, so
That's
that's
hard
kind of like,
huh?
so that's kind of all I have, other than the fact that the middle school is practicing like mad on their play, The Lion King.
My daughter's
Is she in it too?
backstage. She was too shy to be on stage, but she's involved and she's very excited.
Yeah, well, my granddaughter, I said, what are you? She said, what do you want me to be? She said, I'm like 4 things. And I said, good luck.
We're practicing at the high school, so it'll be fun to see.
Yeah, so that'll be fun. We're a very theatrical, musical, whatever community, I swear. Just goes on and on. And by the way, before I forget, I saw a Rennie's commercial tonight. Did you see it? And the Wyndham. I always thought that. Every time I saw it, I wonder why they never asked the Wyndham James singers. And it's kind of like, bingo, there they were.
I haven't seen that.
Yes, the new commercial is the Wyndham James singers. Yes, which was funny. But anyway, Kate, go on.
That was it, Lion King.
Oh, I'm
So
sorry. I took
be sure to watch it when it comes out. I think January 21st.
No, it's before that. It's not.
Is that
It's
on
that,
pay-
that's
is that on
the
pay-per-view?
second weekend. The first weekend is the weekend before.
Coming right up.
It is coming up. Not quick enough. Pete? Anna?
No, I don't have anything.
Darn
I'm
it.
sorry. I'm pretty excited though that I don't have anything. That means that there's
I'm still stuck in the lobster.
Maybe we'll have lobster.
Ah. Okay, Danny, I gave you time. Oh, I don't have anything. She doesn't have anything. Okay, then.
Okay, I move
Go ahead.
to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor? We are adjourned. Thank you very much.